Police officers and first responders wear badges to let their communities know they are here to protect and serve. But it comes at a price. Samantha Horwitz and John Salerno work with police departments across the country to bring valuable recovery, insight resources, and workshops. A Badge of Honor TV brings those professionals to you so we can come together and revitalize communities through a better understanding of what's at stake and what's required for repair. So take a load off and turn up your TV. It's about to get real.
Hey, welcome to A Badge of Honor TV, powered by the OBBM network and streaming on all your favorite platforms. I'm John and Sam. Welcome, Sam. How you doing? We got an interesting show today.
Yeah, partner. Again, this is very personal to you and I. It's been in the news. If you guys have a TV or you watch videos, we're talking about 9/11. We're talking about calling for a new investigation because it's about time. John, before the show, we were talking about the major players during 9/11. I don't even want to mention their names because I don't want to give them any credit for anything whatsoever, other than to say karma came around and took one of the folks involved and put him where he needed to go. And as you and I, as Team A Badge of Honor does carry the load every year, there's so many folks that we personally know that are on those storyboards, and it's really difficult for us to kind of pick apart and see the fact that the folks that we were supposed to put our trust in totally violated that. You and I were both there. We continue to lose people to 9/11 related cancers and other things, as we've talked about on the shows, the different traumas, the family members. And so what we want to do tonight, we are bringing back Raul, Angulo, and Eric Lawyer from 911, Firefighters for 9/11 Truth. Sorry, guys. If you have not listened to or watched episode 37 and 38, go back there and play catch up, because tonight will make a lot of sense leading up to it. We're going to get super deep into World Trade Center's Tower 1 and 2. John, we had firehouses. We remember not only 343 firefighters that lost their lives, but the over 420 first responders that day. And we can recall it. Somebody asked, we know exactly where we were.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I really commend these brave our guests and their committee for their bravery in really uncovering the truths that they wanted us to believe was conspiracy. Kind of let's writing it off like, hey, you saw a UFO? Oh yeah, Jim and Joe in the backwoods of Alabama. It seems like our government, every time they want to do a cover up, they throw this conspiracy theory in there. And it is it's now coming to light. More people are getting brave enough and saying, hey, step it up, going, something's just not right here. And that's what our two guests are doing. So I commend them tremendously for really uncovering the truth and going where many people didn't want to go.
Yeah, so let's bring Eric and Raul on. Hey guys, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV. It's great to have you on.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you. So again, for those of you guys just tuning in, if you haven't watched episode 37 and 38, we on 37 we gave you your guys' background. Eric, firefighter; Raul, retired firefighter. You guys came together with a lot of other people, firefighters for 9/11 Truth. Tonight, we want to give as much time to Towers 1 and 2. I was in Tower 1 when the plane hit it in the elevator. We talked about the debris field that I saw at the lobby level. Nobody expected those buildings to come down because skyscrapers don't. And 3, 1, 2, and 7 on that day. So whichever one of you guys
Let's jump right into it.
Okay, I'll jump right into it. So last time we talked about Building 7, and I made the emphasis that it was the science and the physics that has convinced most people, especially firefighters, to go, okay, something's not right here, especially since it wasn't hit by a plane. Okay, now let's go to Tower 1 and 2. I used to say that's off limits. I'm not going to talk about Tower 1 and 2. It's more visceral because 343 firefighters were killed there. And I almost had the police number memorized. I think it's
26. 26 NYPD, like 37 Port Authority.
Okay, right. And we should have that. We always say never forget the 343, but we always forget the 27 and the 37. See, I should have that memorized. Okay, but I never went there before because it was just too visceral. All right, we're 25 years into it, and now I'm looking at the physics again. So, again, no high-rise building, type 1 construction has ever collapsed ever during a fire. Now, if you remember, they said that the Tower 1 and 2 were designed to take an impact of a plane. At the time when they were built, I think the largest plane was like a 727. Okay, well, they did take the impact of the plane. They performed the way they were designed, even a bigger plane. So let's just say that. They're saying it was designed for that, and somehow we blame it on the planes. No. It was over a half hour before you had structural failure. They did absorb the impact of the plane. But let's break the towers up into thirds. Tower 1, which there's more video of because it's north and everyone's looking south, that's the one we see more video evidence of the collapse that we can actually measure it. Tower 2 was south. You'd have to be on the battery side looking north to get a lot of the visual of Tower 2. So, but let's look at Tower 1. Tower 1 was hit further up in the tower. So let's just take the one. Let's break it down into quarters. The top 1/4 of Tower 1 was hit. That means that 3/4 of it are basically intact. They're not affected by the crash and the fire yet. Tower 2 was hit lower and off to the side. And so let's break Tower 2 up into 1/3 and 2/3. So let's go to Tower 1 first. You have a structure that is a building like this, and then you have the top 1/4. Here's the collapse, or excuse me, here's the impact zone. Now you're going to tell me once it starts to collapse, and watch the video. You've seen it numerous times. When you look at the top 1/4 of that, it starts to disintegrate before this even comes down. So you have less mass and you have less weight hitting the bottom 3/4. All right. So here's the impact zone. And you're going to tell me there were 47 core columns in the middle, and there were 240 perimeter columns. This 1/4 is going to have enough to drive this entire building down to the ground, almost in free fall in its own footprint without any jolt. And when you start looking at that, it doesn't look right. If you take a nail and you take a block of wood and you put a nail here, the nail doesn't just push down. There's resistant forces in the structure, and there has to be a compression force, right? And there has to be an impact at this level to push the nail through the wood. So you get your hammer. If you just leave it static, it's easy to support the weight. On September 10th, that bottom 2/3 was supporting the 1/3 with no problem, or the bottom 3/4 was supporting the top 1/4 on September the 10th. And then on September 11th, you're going to tell me that this had enough driving force to collapse all the resistance force.
Well,
So,
Raul,
yes.
Raul, correct me if I'm wrong. And I think we brought this up the last time because, the point you're making was made by Chief Downey at the command post that same morning when he spoke to Chief Gansey about when Chief Gansey asked, what are the chances of losing his building? Now, Chief Downey was probably one of the most experienced built in building construction and high-rise collapses. He had 40 years of such technical knowledge of both those buildings. And he even turned around and said that he goes, Chief will probably lose the top half, but everything else will stay intact. And that chief knew everything about those buildings in and out. So he did his homework before this even happened.
Right. You're gonna lose something in a localized collapse because you have the perimeter damage, just like your Jenga block, right? If you start pulling out the blocks, it's going to tip towards the weaker side, and that's what he's talking about. But let me go back to the physics. So
hey,
if
Raul, before we go back to the physics, we got to take a quick break. And I did want to say that Chris Joya, that's how I pronounce it, right?
Joya,
he was on. He was interviewed recently, and he was very direct and cryptic at the same time, talking exactly of what you're saying with that inner core. Right. And the quote that came out of it was, "You mean to tell America, the world, that this plane had to go and sever every single one, not just at the impact zone, but as it came down. We'll get to the elevator maintenance." I saw it that occurred leading up to this, but we got to take our first break. We'll come back right after these messages.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever, every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Hey, welcome back to, good. Sorry, Sam.
No, I was going to say, we've got to announce our very special friends at Patriot Mobile. Hey, when you have a mobile device, it's one thing to get 1 month free. Like everybody has a 30-day money back guarantee. How would you like to double that? Well, right now, if you call Patriot Mobile at 972-PATRIOT, use promo code HOLIDAY25 and let them know that a badge of honor sent you. You're going to get 2 free months of mobile service. And who doesn't want that, right? So you keep your carrier, because I get this question all the time. You're not switching to a different carrier. Keep it if you love it. Keep your phone if you love it. If you don't, get a new phone. They've got awesome deals, okay? 972-PATRIOT, holiday 25 for 2 free months. Tell them a badge of honor sent you. Now back to the show.
All right. Well, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam, with Captain Raul and Eric Lawyer. Excuse me. We're discussing the 9/11 conspiracy, but now after 25 years, we're learning that it wasn't so much of a conspiracy, and the technical breakdowns are happening. And these 2 brave gentlemen, along with a committee that they have, are really pulling that curtain back and saying this was more than just a collapse. So welcome back, guys. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, John.
Well, I'm going to get back into where I left off. So everybody has put a nail in a block of wood, okay? If you just rest the hammer on here, even if this was a sledgehammer, all right, there's no impact. It'll support this vertical column, the nail will support it. You have to have a driving impact force to hammer this nail down. And it only goes so far because you have resistant forces pushing up from below. Once the force equalizes, the hammer stops. And then you have to lift it up and drive it in again. Unless it's like styrofoam, you have to keep tapping that hammer all the way down. You have to have that impact, and you have to have that jolt that meets the impact, and it provides resistance. The downward force pushes it down. As the energy gets absorbed to the resistance force, they equalize, and the hammer stops. It doesn't continue to drive it all the way in. You cannot do it. So now you're telling me that in the building, there's no driving force other than the weight of that top 1/4. If you look at the videos of the top 1/4, they start to disintegrate even before this destruction line starts to collapse. That means there's less mass and less weight in the top 1/4 than in the bottom 3/4. So now you even have less because it's disintegrating. And you're going to tell me that this has enough driving force without any resistance to push this entire 3/4 of the building down, almost in free fall in its own footprint.
Now, Raul,
so you got to think about that, and you're going, that's just not physically possible.
Now, Raul, on that note, I want you to share with our listeners, because a lot of them have been bamboozled about the jet fuel burning out and melting the steel columns coming down the elevator shaft. Well, can you put that conspiracy to bed that did not happen?
I can share that role if you're.
Go ahead and take over there.
So I think the link you have, Sam. If you start, let me read this first before you play this. So this is from. I'm pulling it up right now. This is from the NFPA 921. So this is our fire investigation manual, and this is from the NFPA 921 in 2001. So before 9/11 happened, and it talks specifically about what are called high explosives and diffuse air explosions. So we see in the movies, you see like a plane or a car, or whatever, and it blows up, but it blows up from fuel. So that's a fuel air explosion. And then you have ones that are more like you'd see in a C4 going off or whatever, something that blows something up. It's considered a high order explosive. So here's the actual quote from the NFPA 921. It says that it's NFPA 921 18.12.2. The effects produced by a diffuse phase fuel air, and they put it in there, explosions and solid explosives are very different. In a diffuse phase explosion, that's the fuel air one. Structural damage will tend to be uniform, omnidirectional, and the damage will be widespread, and you'll see evidence of burning, scorching, and blistering. So it's like we've all seen that. If something's lit up, it starts. You'll see the char. You'll see the plants will be burned. Everything will be burned. But in contrast, the rate of combustion, this is from it again, of a solid explosive is extremely fast in comparison to the speed. It's almost the speed of sound. Therefore, pressure does not equalize. And so what it basically does is it creates crushing, splintering, and shattering. So that video I sent you, take a look at it. And when you see these guys coming into the lobby, and this is from the Naudet brothers film. So they were actually, there was a French crew filming with, it was Chief Pfeiffer they were kind of with. And on this day, they were checking out a gas leak. So the whole documentary captures this. But when you see this now, look at the lobby, when they come in, everything's still white. You're going to see windows blown out. You're going to see the plants. Nothing's burned. Nothing there's, and yet the story today is still, it was a fuel, basically jet fuel that came down the lobby and blew everything out. It doesn't match at all. Look at
so we're going to play the video, and just want to give credit to Jules Naudet, the French, releasing the French film crew. Want to give credit where credit is due for getting this on as we play it on the show. So I am going to do a screen share here. And share screen. All right. Can you guys see the screen? All right, I'm going to hit the play button.
So you can see the glass is blown out. The walls, those are marble walls. There's no scorching. You can see plants. There's no scorching. And in this video, they show in the raw footage people coming out burned, but there's nothing burned in the lobby.
And you can also see in that hallway that's going to be coming right there, you can see that the marble walls are fractured. The marble chunks have broken off. There's damage to the interior wall.
Well, I mean, that's enough to show the effect. There's no flames. There's nothing that's burned up.
There's Richie Rotans right there, Eric. That's Commissioner Rotans.
And Pfeiffer. No.
Yep.
So yeah, we're seeing the marble on the walls.
Rotans is going back to Building 7 right now.
And if you look at the plant, I mean, you can see it. Look at the plants. There's what the high order explosive talks about. Look at all the plants. Nothing's melted. Nothing's burned.
Look at the damage on the wall too. On that wall in the hallway, on the left side, that marble interior is just blown off the wall.
So just tell me at what point to stop.
You can stop. Yeah. I'm saying there's enough there. But if you listen to the witnesses, the firefighters and the first responders that were in the lobby, they all talk about the explosions. So it wasn't a fuel. It wasn't jet fuel, because the jet fuel would have left scorching and all kinds of things you would have seen. That was an explosive that just basically blows everything apart.
Right. And an impact so high would have not blown out those glass panels on the ground level.
No, at a low level. Everything that they're claiming is up here. And so you're telling me that this building is shaking so violently that you're breaking, interior walls and on the glass at the base. It doesn't make sense. I mean, that would have to be a violent shake. The building did shake, but it shouldn't, well,
The glass
say that it's damaging the lobby at that level.
Even when the Empire State Building was struck back in, I think it was the late 50s or early 60s, the damage was contained. I know that's a different makeup of a building, but it didn't, even that impact didn't bust windows below the impact zone.
Right.
And this glass on the World Trade Center, the way it was set and surrounded by the steel, it was a different kind of construction, and so we shouldn't have seen that. We got to take a next quick break. We will come back and continue our conversation. Stay tuned, everybody.
Look, when you need to respond to an aggressive situation to protect yourself, your family, or your property, understanding your firearm and legal position are critical. Officers know your skills are only as good as your commitment to training. So know what you're doing. So when you're in a vulnerable situation, we can count on your response. Whether you're a beginner or a licensed gun carrier, Carry in Texas offers basic firearms training, Texas permitless carry courses, license to carry, and basic 2A courses so you can understand the responsibilities, situational awareness, and learn the technical skill required when you carry your firearm. Go to carryintexas.com to find the right course for you. Join me, former United States Secret Service agent Samantha Horwitz, on the range for beginner basics, LTC prep, and range practice. Go to carryintexas.com today. That's carryintexas.com.
Hey, welcome back to A Badge of Honor TV with John and Sam. We have Captain Raul and Eric Lawyer with 911firefighters.org. Before we left, we were talking about, we're getting into the physics and the science behind the collapse of towers 1 and 2, and they just do not add up. Physics and science do not lie. Those are, that is the ultimate in what happens with a building, and conspiracy theories and the way they made us believe these towers came down is just a false narrative. Raul, when you were talking about, when you were showing that little demonstration with the with the piece of wood, and everybody could see this, and when the first tower was coming down, you saw it starting to tilt on the top, right? So all physics and everything else would say that part would have just fell over, or it would have just collapsed within itself, and you would have had rubble on the top of that building. It would have not pancaked down. There was no generated force to take down the rest of those floors. Going to the jet fuel theory, remember we were talking with Eric, you know, Chief Oreo got up to the 78th floor and saw small pockets of fire, not hot enough to melt metal. He was up there with his Scott pack off, being able to transmit clearly back to the command center. They set up a triage down by Windows of the World. I think that was on 45. So you could tell no damage there. So they made the whole country believe, or the whole world believe, that so much interior damage to this building was done to make them collapse. And you guys are proving this wrong, proving them wrong.
You got a little ahead of me there, John, but let's go to Oreo, because that was going to be one of my points. Let's go to Tower 2. It's all right. Let's go to Tower 2. Tower 2 was hit lower, okay? So now you have damage lower, and it was off to the side. This is just simple physics, and we can get into it really deep if you really wanted to. But as Tower 2, you can see in certain video, and there's not as much clear video in Tower 2 as there is in 1. But Tower 2 substantially falls off to the side, like this, okay? Again, that takes away mass, and it takes away weight. And you have 240 perimeter columns, and you're going to tell me there's no resistance? What is driving, just like the hammer, what is driving these buildings straight down in almost free fall in their own footprint? These are 3 buildings that fall within their own footprint. And it's just, it's like winning the Powerball 3 days in a row. It's really impossible to really try and believe that. But let's get back to Oreo. Okay, so now when you read the NIST report, and they're very careful, when you read the NIST report, they talk about temperatures being 1800 degrees, this and that. That is, they talk about the ceiling temperature or the atmosphere temperature, okay? And that's very well true. You can get those temperatures at the ceiling in office fires, but not 2800 degrees. If you think, and they don't mention that, they're only talking about these extreme temperatures at the ceilings, but that's air temperature that they're talking about in the NIST report, not steel temperature. If you think about it, the steel, and here goes back to our physics again, absorbs that heat and it displaces it to the rest of the steel column. In other words, that heat is being transferred to cooler parts of the steel. It's not being maintained at those high temperatures. It would take upwards of 1100 to even 2000 degrees to collapse the steel, because it starts to weaken at 1100, 1200 degrees. But to have that complete failure, it would have to be enormous temperatures. And you have survivable people up there where it would be an untenable atmosphere.
They would melt.
Right. And Oreo proves it, because he's running up there to the 90, I forget what floor, the 90 plus floor. He's not on air. He's not breathing through his face piece, okay? He's speaking and clearly. He's transmitting to you. Well, the trachea can only take like less than 200 degrees, 150 degrees, you're burning your trachea. And yet he's saying we have small pockets of fire. We can put them out with a couple of lines, send me a couple of companies. This is at the impact zone of Tower 2. And then shortly after, it collapses. That means that the fatigue of that steel would have to be 2000 degrees, in an area well above human tenability. And yet he's talking and saying we have small fires and then it collapses. You have to ask yourself, how could he survive in that temperature that would cause the steel to just collapse? So there's another question there.
Now, Raul, was the steel, I don't know, was the steel sprayed? Was it usually they spray steel with like an asbestos coating, a fire resistant? Was any of that steel coated or anything, or was it all barren?
It should have been covered during construction, but it needs to be maintained, and we'll give them that. Let's give them that it knocked all the protective coating off. Let's give them that the steel will collapse. But again, it goes back to the resistance forces.
Right.
This steel on the bottom 2/3 and the bottom 3/4 of the towers, this is an intact building. Right. This has tremendous structural resistance, and yet there is no resistance. You follow that collapse, and it's down in 10 to 15 seconds. It's done, and there's no resistance force. In one of the videos, there's one column that stays up. and it's taller than building 7 because you could see it above building 7. The pancake floor, that column would have to pierce all the pancake flooring to remain standing after all the floors have collapsed. And yet it's there. You have to ask yourself, this standing column, what happens? Eventually it tips over. But it tips over because it's cut. And it tips over.
And I know exactly the video that you're talking about. If you're kind of just coming in to this conversation, there's so much out there that people have covered. In addition to Raul and Eric and Firefighters for 9/11 Truth, some of the videos you guys have on your website, but don't just take our word for it. John and I, we were there. We're certainly not, well, John more than me, experts in how buildings collapse. However, I can read, and I know from talking to firefighters like John and Raul and Eric that skyscrapers, they don't do what we saw. 3 buildings, World Trade Center Tower 1, Tower 2, and 7, which was never impacted by a thing. Okay. Again,
the only 3 buildings in the world that ever did that ever. They had a fire in Puerto Rico. They had a high-rise fire in Puerto Rico that burned for 19 hours straight, and it still didn't collapse.
And 7, like I said, was not structurally unsound. You had small pockets of fire, but nothing, not a raging inferno. And we covered that on the episode 37 and 38. Do your own homework. The videos are out there. We just played one from YouTube. They're all there. That video of that steel column roll that you were just talking about, that is there. And you watch the disintegration, which in itself is odd, because like metal should be everywhere. Where does the steel, the metal, everything that went into the towers, where does it go?
We call it a pancake collapse, and there's no pancakes at the bottom.
Not a pancake collapse.
You go there, and all you have is steel. All the concrete is pulverized. Let me bring up a couple of more points, and then we can open it up for more discussion. Let me go back to Tower 1. So Tower 1 had less mass and weight at the top, and yet it's going to drive this entire building down. But yet you have multi-ton, I don't know how many tons, of steel blowing out over 600 feet horizontally, right? And it's traveling. They can measure it by the videos. The physicists have measured it. This blowout is happening anywhere between 60 and 80 miles an hour, right? And you go to Newton's laws of physics, the direction, that force has to come from a source from within in the same direction. This thing can't push and blow out steel 600 feet that weighs tons and tons and tons. When you look at the NIST report, all right, because they talk about the floor trusses. Fine, let's give them all the floor trusses. The floor trusses only hold up the floor. The trusses, when they say, well, the trusses were lightweight steel. Fine, okay, I give you that. The trusses would have failed due to the fire. I'll give you that. The trusses hold up the floor horizontally. You have to focus on the columns. That's what's providing the vertical resistance, and that's what they don't address. And so even in the first FEMA report, they said that their modeling, they could not definitively determine the cause of the collapse. And in the NIST report, they only say that global collapse then ensued. They talk about going up, everything that happened right before the collapse, and then they say, then global collapse ensued. The NIST report never acknowledges or confirms that this was a pancake collapse. That is nomenclature from firefighters talking, and we believe it because it makes sense. But NIST does not say that it was a pancake collapse. In fact, they say, the NIST report, they say that we were unable to provide a full explanation of the total collapse. They don't even tell you from the time it starts to falling. NIST does not provide an explanation for that. Most people don't know that. And we assume it's a pancake collapse. If you read the NIST report, when it's talking about the trusses, it's talking about the trusses that is a horizontal plane, and they're failing in the middle. They're bowing, okay? You can bow it. That was happening. But if you look at the edge is bringing the exterior columns in. It should be falling in, not blowing out 600 feet.
Raul.
Yes.
Just for our listeners' personal knowledge that don't know what a NIST report is, or don't know the committee that encompasses putting that NIST report together, just share real quick what that NIST report is and who is on those committees that do that.
The first report to determine what was the cause of the collapse was done by FEMA and the American Society of Civil Engineers. And I think that was done, I don't have my notes right in front of me, but it was done like in 2002, shortly after the collapse. But they couldn't determine what caused it. They just said then global collapse ensued. It was incomplete. It was inconclusive. So Congress asked the National Institute of Standards of Technology, this is a government agency under the Commerce Department, which is under the executive branch, to provide a more fuller explanation. But again, they talk about all this stuff. And let me tell you something. Even in the NIST report, they say the majority of the jet fuel was consumed in the fireball. They only say approximately 1/3 of the fuel entered into the building. So now when you talk about jet planes fully loaded with fuel, we're not talking with 1,000 pounds of fuel floating around there. No, it was vaporized and it was dispersed. Exactly. And I'll be generous and give them 1/3 of the fuel supply was inside the building. And now we're going to believe that all this fuel flowed like a river, found its way to the elevator shafts, went all the way down into the lobby. There's only a couple of shafts that go the entire length of the building. It's the express elevators and the freight elevators. All the other ones, they stop at the mid-level sky bridges. So if you take the top 1/3 of where those elevators are, the 90th floor, 94th floor, wherever the plane impacted, that is not where the express elevators stop. So if fuel did hit those elevator shafts on those floors, it would go down and hit the bottom of that elevator pit, which is at the sky lobby. And then you have a middle section with another sky lobby, and then you have the lobby. So the fact that all this jet fuel would be able to travel down the elevator shaft to the lobby makes it even harder to believe that when you're only talking 1/3 of the fuel supply.
Right.
Let me just bring this point up too.
Before we gotta leave people in suspense here. We gotta take another break. We'll come back to and get exactly what you wanted to say, Raul. So just stand by 1 second. We're talking about East Texas Legends Coffee, which was founded by Ben and Amanda Holmes. It reflects their journey from Ben's Marine Corps service and law enforcement career, overcoming PTSD to finding purpose in ranching. Relocating to an East Texas ranch, they identified a need for a local coffee brand. Now they're opening their first coffee shop in Lindale, Texas, rooted in faith, family, and community. Their mission: inspire purposeful conversations over coffee. So drink coffee and be legendary. Go to, I'm going to put up the banner right here, etxlegendscoffee.com, promo code badge. That's etxlegendscoffee.com, promo code badge. Get 15% off not only coffee, which is, obviously you want that, but it's also off of their wonderful, wonderful merchandise, like our coffee cups. So cheers. Bing, bing, bing. That didn't work out so well, but thank you, East Texas Legends Coffee. Hey, they got flavors of the month. They got holiday stuff coming up. etxlegendscoffee.com. Promo code badge, 15% off all coffee and merch. Now, back to the show. Raul, you were saying.
Okay, so let's just talk about jet fuel, and then we'll move on a couple of more points I want to bring up, and then you guys can ask a bunch of questions. So there were plenty of firefighters that said they smelled jet fuel. They're assuming it's coming from the elevator shaft. But, you know, the building exploded and there was jet fuel. I mean, the first initial flaming debris that came down was probably jet fuel saturated. So you're going to have jet fuel. There was jet fuel. And so the fact that they smell it is normal. But that doesn't mean it's coming from the elevator shafts. And that's where you have to question it, because they can smell it outside. Well, of course, the whole thing exploded and there's jet fuel everywhere. So you will smell it. So I want to bring that point up. The other thing I want to bring up is when we talk about pancake collapse, again, the roof of Tower 1 and 2 were basically untouched by the planes. If you have a pancake collapse, that roof should have rode it all the way down, and the roof would be the layer that everybody is standing on, or that's at the top of the pile is the roof. There's no roof. There's no concrete. Where did the roof go, right? So you have to ask those questions, because it's too simple just to say, well, it was a pancake collapse. There's no pancakes. The last thing I want to bring up that I think is really important is that there were over 100 testimonies, verbal testimonies from firefighters describing that they heard explosions. We all know what explosions sound like. There was all this radio interviews of civilians, and I mean, just watch it on day one. Explosions, explosion, boom, 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 explosions, explosions. On day two, the narrative changed and you didn't hear that. Even the reporters were talking about explosions on September 11th, and then on September 12th and afterwards, they shut that narrative down. Now, if you look at the first responders, all right, the firefighters, they weren't watching TV on September 11th. They're there working the site. So you have those that experience explosions, but if they're not interviewed and they come home 2 or 3 days after and they're finally watching TV, they're not hearing explosions anymore. They're hearing alternate theories. But on day one, everybody was talking about explosions. Why didn't the fire and police say that they heard it? Well, they're at the site. They're not listening to all this testimony until it comes out years later in documentaries. And one last thing on documentaries, if you look at all the explanations of the collapse on YouTube, there's some from the History Channel and from Nova and all these areas, and they have all these really pretty graphics. The graphics don't resemble the videos. They leave so many construction components out that you look at this pretty graphic and you go, oh, okay, it went like that. That's not what we're looking at. None of it shows this building exploding 600 feet in a perimeter. And again, how can that top little section blow stuff out 600 feet? Come on. We have to start asking the questions of physics.
Two things on that. First, there is a video that's part of documentaries and a standalone that does have an actual explosion sound caught on it. That's first. And then second, in terms of the blowing out of debris, Eric, we talked about that this in the last time you were on, is if you look at footage from after the collapse, all the collapses, you have fire trucks, police cars, regular people cars, no burns. The windows are not blown out. They're just sitting. The tires are not melted. Again, exactly what you just said, Raul. If you have this massive thing coming out, like, what gives? Things do not add up.
Yeah. I mean, what I would say, to keep it simple, John brought it up, and Oriel Palmer being able to go up there, and Raul talked about it. It's like your own barbecue. You can burn that thing all day long, and it's not going to do what happened there. And we're talking the same temperatures. And then the thing to me that always is, Raul's one of, the national experts, you could say, in firefighting, writing the manual and all different kinds of things. But one of the simple things that the average person can understand is, when we have a crime, one of the largest crime in America that I know of, you investigate everything. Our national standards say investigate for explosives. In 1993, World
Exactly.
Trade Center was hit with explosives. We know that. Why would we not test? So like even let go of all the science, let go of all of it. It makes no sense that we didn't test for the very thing that's the only thing that can explain this thing doing what we're talking about. So we're sitting here having a, it's like this shouldn't even be happening. We should have tested for this. This is
But now, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric. Now they found traces of thermite.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, thermitic.
Right.
Yeah. They even know the signature of where it came from. So it's like this is insane. But the authorities that were tasked with this investigation, I think it was Trade Center 1 and 2 came out in 2005, and Tower 7 I think was 2008. It took years for them to do this. And like Raul said, they didn't go into how the collapse even happened. So the whole thing has been a whitewash. It's like it makes me think I'm crazy. Like as firefighters, we rely on information that helps us know how to change our tactics, how to change building construction, how to do all this. The only way you can do that is you have to test. You have to understand how this happened. But the first time, like you said earlier, John, was first 3 buildings all the same day collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
Never happened before. Why do you not test? This is like it's insanity.
There's thermite, thermate, and nanothermite. Nanothermite is the military grade that those microspheres were found everywhere in the dust.
Yeah.
Everywhere. Yes, it should terrify people to hear that. And we're not making this up. This is now documented. It is in being held, I'll say, in some evidentiary fashion. We now have senators like Senator Johnson. We have Congress people. We have more and more people speaking out, demanding that a new investigation is opened up. It is the right thing to do for the families of all of our fallen brothers and sisters. This is not trampling on their memories. We have a right to know as a society, but these families have a right to know why their loved ones are not here any longer. And all it takes for everybody watching and listening on the favorite podcast app to do is to go to 911firefighters.org. That's 911firefighters.org. Start there. Calling out Bravo 7. Start there. Work your way backwards. Get your hands on the video that we just showed on here. Thank you again.
Sam,
media.
if I may interject, what you're just saying, we would love to do everything for the families, but I'm going to say something that we're all thinking, and it's never going to happen. We're never going to get the true story because the people that are behind this are too powerful, too big, and they can never, ever, ever allow the truth to really come out. Yeah. You know what? They'll never let the real truth come out. There are too many deaths, too much damage, too much collateral impact on this. Too many people would burn for it, and they have to protect their political asses. So
let me appeal to the fire and police. There's an excellent video called "The Last 30 Seconds" by Jonathan Cole. You have to put in Jonathan Cole and watch that. It's a short video and it explains so much that I've learned. So there's that. But and Eric, talk about Chief Williamson's son. But let me just say this, John. We have enough video footage now of firefighters, including the captain of Rescue 2, and I brought this up last time. These firefighters are seeing explosions, secondary explosions in the lobby. These are firefighters, and within the fire service, the ones who attack Eric and I, calling us conspiracy theories. My question to you guys is, why don't you believe your own brothers? Right. Why don't you believe your own people? You're willing to believe engineers at NIST, the government investigating the government. Their word, they weren't even there. They're just speculating on computer modeling. And yet you have our own firefighters and police officers saying, this is what I saw, this is what I heard. And we choose to blow it off and say, oh, that's crazy. And we try and say it, and then they call us conspiracy theorists. But families have skin in the game, and one of the sons of the battalion chief contacted Eric. Eric, can you talk about that? Because
wait, real quick, but on that point, Raul, you know what? Our police and fire are looking at the 9/11, the day that it happened. They're looking at the collapse. if you take those other puzzle pieces of a year prior, or follow the paper trail, follow the movements, the chess movements throughout the country on money exchanging hands, stocks and bonds being traded, insurance companies, and watch all the way down to the Clinton era. All this was, if you follow that all the way back, this is the end result. And our firefighters and police officers are not seeing the pre-game. They're only seeing post-game.
Yeah. And real quick, because we're at the 50-minute mark, Eric, we'll end with you. What about the son?
Oh, right. Okay. Basically, it's the son of a battalion chief that was killed on 9/11. And how would I say it? He and his family, they want answers because his dad was a battalion chief, and he was teamed up with a crew that went in, and they were able to find basically his father, but none of the rest of the crew. So what his point was, like what I was being told, none of it makes sense. He's like, they found almost my dad's entire body. So he's like, somebody's lying. Why are they lying? And they didn't find this. So his whole thing is like, the families, and to me, it's beyond, it's the families are super important, but it's so much more. It's like, we as the American people, if we're going to allow this, what are we doing? It's like, and it's not crazy, because it's not saying, hey, I don't like the story you told me. It's like, we didn't follow any proper investigations. We didn't do this. And like Raul said, our brothers and sisters, you guys were there yourselves. They're reporting all these things. So if we've given away all the power of the people to the media and to politicians, that's the thing that we need to wake up from. So this is like beyond finding out the truth of 9/11. This is we, the people, waking up and going, enough. We're not going to buy your lies. We're going, something's got to shift. And I don't have the answer for what that is, but I think it's what we're doing. We're talking about it, having awareness, and not believing the lies when they're told to us. Like,
absolutely. And it's starting. It's taken big voices like you guys, Tucker, Senator Johnson, Congressman, we said his name before.
Congressman Kurt Weldon.
Guys, put the puzzle pieces together for yourself. You will see it doesn't add up. And it took me and Eric and John a long time to be like, time out here. Okay, because it's personal.
Yes,
you were there. And so let's keep the information flowing. Again, I'll put your all's website up again, 911firefighters.org. Get involved. You don't have to be a firefighter or a police officer to get involved. Go and get involved. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. God bless you. Keep up the good fight. Don't let them scare you. Because we heard from Chris Joy all the stuff that's going on. Don't let them scare you. Don't let them silence you, because you're right. We deserve the truth. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. You can't.
These two men are so powerful. And they've done their homework. They've investigated. They have the intelligence. They have the physical science breakdown. I mean, you can't get any clearer than that.
No, you can't.
You
can't. And you know what? You can't get any clearer than it. It is time that we keep up the support. So whether you want to support Eric and Raul, again, go to their website. Support all first responders. Go to our website, abadgeofhonor.org. You see a little donate button. Click it. Every penny counts. And I know pennies are spread thin. Okay, so even if it's a nickel, just kind of dive into the places where you want to dive into. $1 here, $1 there, okay? Because we're counting on it. That's what's going to bring the truth forward. So abadgeofhonor.org to support first responders. We have upcoming workshops. December 5th, it's on our website, on the homepage. If you are within a 2.5 hour drive to North Texas, get in that workshop. You'll see all the details. Just go to our website and click on the register link on our homepage. And, for all of our partners out there, thank you so much for what you do in giving back. Again, we could not do this journey without you all. So thank you so much to all of our first responders out there. Thank you for what you do, keeping our community safe. To all the veterans out there, thank you for fighting the good fight that allows John and I to do a show like this. Kiss our rear end, screw tube. Okay? Because we're not doing your lives anymore. You take us off, we give you the middle finger back. So thank you, our veterans out there. For all of our active duty personnel spread out across the globe, we are praying for you as well. Thank you for keeping our shores safe. John, quick, take us home.
Big prayers out to the NYPD and the officer who was shot today in the 7-3 precinct. God bless you for doing a great job. And thank God you got out of the hospital with life-threatening injuries. But your bravery has been felt across the country. Thank you to the NYPD. Those guys, men and women in blue, are fearless, and they should be commended.
Keep up the good work. Till next week, everybody. See you then.
A Badge of Honor podcast is produced for the OBBN Network podcast and protected under copyright law. For content permissions, please submit your request to abadgeofhonor.com on the content page. For OBBN Network programming information, please call 214-714-0495 today.